large.
Hey, you got your mic is ready?
Nah.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah amma ba'd. We want to go back to the issue of putting the right over the left and hands on the chest. Can you read those two chapters again, inshallah?
Oh, you want to read them too?
Yes.
وضع اليمنى على اليسرى والأمر به وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يضع يده اليمنى على اليسرى وكان يقول إنا معشر الأنبياء أمرنا بتعجيل فطرنا وتأخير سحورنا وأن نضع أيماننا على شمائلنا في الصلاة.
Hey, this part, the Shaikh is bringing the narration of Sallam is talking about the obligation. The obligation to put on the right over the left. You know this is a period issue when you talk about doing something to clear. You start with the right, or the right is superior. You start with putting on your clothing. Bismillah, you put on the right side, put your left leg in your izar or your pants. You put your right arm in, and when you take off, and you want to start with the left. Take your shoe off, the left shoe, left sock off, the left leg out, the left arm out. Likewise, when you come to the masjid, which one is the most virtuous, the masjid or outside the masjid?
Masjid.
Depending on who you are, somebody might say the outside, I don't believe that. Yeah, the masjid is most virtuous. So how do we know? The Sallam said the best place, to Allah wa ta'ala, the world that we live is the masajid. And the worst place, he said, is the place where you trade, because this is where you're going to see some sin and scandals, and you're going to see ladies, and people are going to steal, and this and that. Fitna around money. Tay. So the same thing, the right over the left. You would never put the left over the right. This is the right over the left. So the Prophet said this command, and that all of the prophets and messengers before, they were commanded to pray like that with the right over the left. And this issue, even in the Bible, you can find the people used to pray like the Muslims. In the Bible, standing, bowing, prostrating, Allahu Akbar. So the right over the left, the Prophet, this is one of the ways of the prophets and the messengers. And that the Prophet command us to do that.
ومر برجل وهو يصلي وقد وضع يده اليسرى على اليمنى فانتزعها ووضع اليمنى على اليسرى.
And Prophet passed by a man who was praying like that, and the Prophet physically took his left, put it down, and put the right over the top. He switched the arrangement of the man's hands while the man was praying. Now,
وضعهما على الصدر وكان يضع اليمنى على ظهر كفه اليسرى والرسغ والساعد وأمر بذلك أصحابه وكان أحيانا يقبل.
Okay. So now the next chapter is to put the right over the left. Now where you place it, the Shaikh said ala sabr on the chest, and they said that ماذا؟
كان يضع اليمنى على ظهر كفه اليسرى.
He used to put the outside of his hand, on the pardon me, astaghfirullah al-azim, that was slip of the tongue. He used to put the inside of his, we'll call that the what? Palm. On the back of his left hand. That's one way. The next way?
والرسغ والساعد.
He used to also rest the wrist, this part. So put it here. So you have here on top of the back of the hand. Then you have on the wrist, and then you have on the forearm. So these three are the way. And then you also have another way.
وكان أحيانا يقبض باليمنى على اليسرى.
And sometimes he will grab. You see this finger and the thumb, he will grab, illustrate like this. So not only he has it like this sometimes, then sometime on his wrist, sometime on his forehead, sometime it will be like this in the salah. Like he's holding something together. Holding his wrist like it hurts, painful. Sometime like this, sometime like this. And all of this show you that you should be concentrating in the salah. You don't want to become like the bird who just probably want a cracker, probably want to eat, just say like routine. You want to, switching up. You're conscious. Today I'm praying, this part. like the sunnah, I pray sometime like this, let me do like this for this salah. That means you're aware of what's going on in salah. You're not just praying like the man, Musil Salah. He prayed in a bad way. Now.
وكان ينهي عن الاختصار في الصلاة وهو الصلب الذي كان ينهى عنه.
Allah musta'an. He prohibited you pray with your hands tacked on your waist.
Waist.
Yeah, like it's like somebody. Who you talking to? Women, the girls, their hands on the hip. Well, because it says in another narration, Yahudi pray like that. And their hand on the hip and they rock, saying what they're saying. This is the ibadah. Allah musta'an. The Christian there, ibadahs, some of them singing, some of them beating drums, playing the guitar, all of this they make ibadah. So the Prophet prohibited this. Yeah, man, like a band, man. You be in there dancing and the ladies be shouting, alhamdulillah, Allah musta'an. So all of this, he opposing them in their worship, not to put your hand like this. And all this, we said, it also showed that the hand shouldn't be on the waist, shouldn't be down to the side, right over the left, and being somewhere on the chest. It shows you it shouldn't be down to the side, neither on the waist. Nah.
النظر إلى موضع السجود والخشوع.
Looking at the place of prostration, and then he said, "Oh, khushu'." Khushu', ulama say have to do with your heart. Khashiyah or khashiyah have to do with how you magnify Allah because of His greatness. So they're tied together. That's why al-Tabarak wa ta'ala mentioned إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. That the true servants of Allah, that yakhsha Allah, meaning they put Allah in a high position. They put Allah Tabarak wa ta'ala in a high position, meaning they respect His authority, they respect His commands, they respect His punishment, they fear Him. Based on what they have, is going to make them do right. And Allah said, these are the people who have knowledge. And He used the plural, al-ulama, those who have a lot of knowledge. I show you sometimes a little knowledge is not enough. We read a little knowledge, a half a book, one page, and that's it. And people think you're supposed to be like someone who read volumes of books and read the Quran and constantly read. No, it's a difference. Al-ulama, that means they have a lot of, they have a lot of action, a lot of worship, consistent. Allah used this term to describe the people who have kashya, that have their knowledge makes them humble themselves and submit to Allah. Amma khushu' with the ayn, which is in this chapter, looking at the place of prostration, khushu', then it's part of making your heart and your mind and your body in the salah. You're not all over the place and thinking about this. Why? Because you're focused.
وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا صلى فأطأ رأسه ورمى ببصره نحو الأرض.
And if the Prophet ﷺ, and when he prayed, Rama Ratsahu, he would cast his eyes, he would look in the direction in which he was going to prostrate.
ولما دخل الكعبة ما خلف بصره موضع السجود حتى خرج منها.
And when he entered the Kaaba to pray, mentioning the Kaaba here means that the Kaaba is a masjid. People don't go in there and pray no more, except I heard that sometimes they will let, what they used to, I don't know now with Muhammad bin Salman, Hadallah Yana, but before, some of the other kings, they would let dignitaries go in and pray 2 rak'ah. So here, Prophet is going in the Kaaba. Like you come in this masjid, you go in that masjid, and he would look at the place of prostration, and that's how he would pray until he leave the Kaaba. And this the narration the Shaikh is mentioned.
وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ينبغي أن يكون في البيت شيء يشغل المصلي. And the Prophet is here saying there's no need. لا ينبغي. Some people translate this in a lot of different ways. Sometimes لا ينبغي means لا يجوز. It's not permissible. لا ينبغي لا يصلح. It's not proper. لا ينبغي لا حاجة. There's no need. All of these could be applied here with the Prophet is saying la yambaghi for a person. There's no need. There's it's not right. It's not permissible for a person to have something
on the ground, and other ways you could say it in front of you on the wall. Like we mentioned, sometimes they put the decoration, they put the ayat Rahman, yani Alam al-Bayan, Alam al-Rahman, yani Mada, Alam al-Quran, Khalaq al-Insan, Alam al-Bayan. They had the whole surah all across the wall, man. You're praying, you're looking up, and your mind, oh, that looks so pretty. You're distracted. You know, sometimes the brothers make a big issue about what's on the carpet. Akhi, Allah musta'an, akhi. If somebody got a design to somebody, it looks like a British knight. Somebody else said, no, that's a Christian cross. Somebody said, no, it's not a Christian cross. It's just like, it looks like a railroad. Somebody going this way and they're arguing. But guess what? If you're looking at that, you're thinking about that in the salah, Prophet said, in this case, la yamba. So we shouldn't put those kind of carpets in the masjid. That's why the Shaikh was against this musalla that we have with all the different colors. The Sheikh's fatwa, he will say, make the carpet one solid color, or don't put all this zahar decoration. Why? Because the person is going to be busy himself with that while he's in the salah.
وكان ينهي عن رفع البصر إلى السماء.
And for yanha here could mean dislike. It could also mean haram. What do you think yanha here, he prevented you meant? Don't do it is not a good idea, or that is haram? That you raise and look to the sky when you pray. Which one do you think it means?
It's haram.
Somebody said haram. Well, make sure you get it. Haram.
Looking at the sky?
Aywa. But no, when the term yanha, nahi yanha means he prevents you, he stops you. Sometimes yanha means it's dislike, makruha. Sometimes yanha means it's haram, don't do it. So he's talking about looking up while you're praying. He said yanha. What do you think he's talking about here? Prevented you because it's not good, or that it's haram?
Haram.
Haram. Hey, keep reading.
ويؤكد في النهي حتى قال لينتهين أقوام يرفعون أبصارهم إلى السماء في الصلاة أو لا ترجع إليهم. وفي رواية أو لا تخطفن أبصارهم.
Here, the Shaikh said the Prophet clarified by emphasizing after he said don't, or he wouldn't allow you to look if it's haram or not. He emphasized that fact, showing you that it's haram. Because he said, if you look, we will not be afraid that maybe you look, and when you come back from looking, you have no vision. You look, Allah is going to snatch your vision away. Or you're not, yani, that, you won't be able to see. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Prophet used to say, we mentioned the khutbah, a'udhu billahi, a'udhu bika min zawal ni'matak. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you that you will take some bounty, some favor, some blessing away from me that you gave. So imagine the Prophet telling you, you're going to look up and Allah take your vision. That means it's haram. Allah take your vision. Because of something, that's punishment. So that's not dislike, that's haram.
وفي حديث آخر فإذا صليتم فلا تلتفتوا فإن الله ينصب وجهه لوجه عبده في صلاته ما لم يلتفت.
Allah musta'an. And another hadith the Shaykh said, it's also recorded that la tatafit. Yeah, when you're praying, don't let your eyes wander like this and look around. He said because Allah Azza wa Jal here, he looks at the servant, ماذا? إن الله
إن الله ينصب وجهه لوجه عبده.
Here, ينصب وجهه. This term ينصب وجهه. Here, you have two things in the Arabic language. You have حسية, معنى لغويا, something that's the face value meaning in Arabic. And then you have a ma'na, ma'nawiyan. It has an underlying meaning. The Prophet have to tell you, this is what Allah means. Allah have to send down, this is what the word means. ينسب وجهه إلى عبده. Allah Azza wa Jal turn his face to a servant. Don't mean Allah doing like this, like it means Allah, he sees everything. Good enough, turn his face. Yani, what means here? Allah is going to accept your dua. Allah is going to accept your prayer. Allah is going to answer you. You know, when you ask Him something, this is what it means. So as long as you're not looking all around and you're not answering the call of Allah, Allah commands you to pray while you're inwardly, outwardly obeying Him, and calm also means not looking all around, not distracted.
وقال أيضا عن التلفت اختلاس يختلسه الشيطان من صلاة العبد.
And the Prophet also coined this looking up as a way that Shaitan, he steals from the servant. How is he stealing? He's taking the merit of the salat. When you look up, when you look around, and that's why the Prophet mentioned ushur, yani al-tusa, yani thumat. A person would have a tenth, another would have a ninth, an eighth of salat. You know, people degree would be lessened based on the level of obedience, the level of knowledge, and the level of concentration in the salat.
وقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يزال الله مقبلا على العبد في صلاته ما لم يلتفت فإذا صرف وجهه انصرف عنه.
And here the Prophet mentioned Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala again doing the action, muqbilin, devoted muqbilin, paying attention, muqbilin, giving attention to. So here it says, so as long as the servant is not looking around or distracted, then Allah would be devoted, committed to helping, accepting the prayer, the salat, and the dua, and protecting that servant who's praying. So as long as he's not distracted or heedless of Allah and the salat, then Allah will be heedless of you.
ونهى عن ثلاث عن نقرة كنقرة الديك وإقعاء كإقعاء الكلب والتفات كالتفاتة الثعلب.
And he prohibited you from three things as it relates to the issue of salah. One, for each one.
نقرة كنقرة الديك.
To pray like the chicken, deek, or the rooster. He's pecking. So what the Prophet is talking about for you in salah, how do you peck? You're going like this, quick. You ever see somebody stand up and sit? Then he go like that, then he go down his knees, hit his head, come back up, hit his head, come back up, then pop back up like. This is the Prophet described this as praying like a deep, like a chicken or a hen. Then the other one, kelb, to put your forearms flat on the ground like this. They should be raised. Your palm should be on the ground, and your arms are not on the ground. But the dog, when the dog lay down, how he lay? He lay like this. You're never going to see a dog with his hands up. He's laying like a cat. Also, he lay with their. So Prophet prohibits you. You're making sajda, and you got your face down, but you got your legs and on the ground, and you got your arms like this, like a dog. And the other one.
والتفات كالتفات الثعلب. Like
التفات,
somebody who turns.
And
like
to be moving like a snake.
No, fox, ثعلب, fox.
A fox.
Fox, yeah.
What do you mean?
A ثعلب. I think ثعلب, he moved like around like his head.
Oh, the fox he do.
Yeah.
You know the fox he cutting his eyes like this, almost like the prior chapter.
Yes.
The fox is looking. He's sneaky, so he got to cut his eyes, and you think he's not looking, he's looking at you. The Prophet prohibits you from being like this in the salat like the fox. Allah knows best.
وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول صلي صلاة مودع كأنك تراه فإن كنت لا تراه فإنه يراك.
Go back to the ta'ala again. Ancient code.
والتفات كالتفات الثعلب.
Yes. Yeah, this is talking about the eyes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it said the ears.
That's what you know there?
ولا تلتفت إلى أي أحد. Don't lend the ear to anybody. So sometimes we use that term about your ears, and sometimes your eyes. If you go on, being attentive with your eyes, looking around like this. Because you could be still, but every time somebody moves, you're doing like. And I remember one time I had vision, and we were watching the TV, and they had the Juma on the TV. We were in the Muslim country, we were in Jordan. And they showed Juma live. So they showing the guys, they praying their sunnahs. And this masjid they called the Adhan al-Duhur. And then some guys came out and they did some group Adhan, and then people praying their sunnahs, and then 10 more people came out. They're called the Adhan. Those people never came out to pray. They must have been like the elite Sufis. All they do is call the Adhan and roll out. And so then they show the people praying. And this guy, wallah, he was praying like this. He has hands on his stomach, and he was doing like this. Every time somebody come in or come in their door, his eyes was doing like this. Oh, it's a lot. I was like, wow. So this is what Sullivan is talking about. Allah.
وكان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول صلي صلاة مودع كأنك تراه فإن كنت لا تراه فإنه يراك.
Here the Prophet ﷺ mentions Salli Salatul Mawadda'. What is the word Mawadda'?
Someone is leaving.
Leaving, Allah understand. So when the person travels, the Prophet say, Istodi Allah. May Allah give you a farewell, be with you on your trip. Istodi Allah. Fi dinikum wa amanatikum wa khawatim a'malikum. The Prophet would say this. May Allah be with you and your bid you farewell and your trip be with you, and your amanatikum, what you keep your oath, and the end, because you don't know, you travel, it might be it for you. I mean, people traveled and they didn't come back, and then you get a call, so and so died in the crash, so and so this, that happened. So the Prophet would make that dua when he traveled, or somebody was traveling. And also it was said, Sallu Salatul Mawadda'. Farewell, if everybody knew this is the last salah and then it's Yawm al-Qiyamah, wallahi, everybody going to pray the right way. Going to ask Allah for all the things they can to give me this, that, or Allah, have mercy on me. Nobody going to be worrying about, oh man, I left my steak sandwich on the counter, my wife going to get it. Am I going to be on that? You praying, you left your phone, man, I left my phone. Man, I think it's on the seat of the car. You left it on the bed at home, but your mind is one. If you knew that was the last salah, khalas. And the Prophet mentioned, as if you see Allah. And this is part of praying like that. You can't see Allah, but guess what? If you could see Allah, you wouldn't, man, listen, you'd be so scared, man. Allah must die. You'd be like an angel in the salah. Dhikr. You'll make one rakat forever. So the Prophet is combining a farewell mentality in your salah with seeing Allah. This is like ihsan. You want to be the best in anything, always imagine that you can see Allah, but the reality is I don't see Him, but one thing for sure, Allah, He see me. So this is part of what the Prophet has mentioned. The Shaikh has mentioned this here. Salatul Mawadda', praying in a manner that mentally, physically, spiritually, as if this is your last salah. Now.
ويقول ما من امرئ تحضره صلاة مكتوبة فيحسن وضوءها وخشوعها وركوعها إلا كانت كفارة لما قبلها من الذنوب.
This hadith, many ulama use it to say that the 5 daily prayer wipes away all of your sin. Some of them said that's not true because the Prophet said the Salat al-Jum'ah wa Salawat al-Khamsa wa Ramadan ila Ramadan ma da yukaffir ما بينهم إذا اجتني
اجتنبت الكبائر.
When you avoid the major sin. But Shaikh Shaikh, I heard him talking about this, mashallah, the fiqh he gave him this. He said there's a difference between something wiping away a sin and something wiping away what's between something. He said this hadith where the Prophet said the 5 daily prayer from one Jummah to the next and from Ramadan to Ramadan, he said this is called kafara, al-kafara baini. the thing that wipes out in between something. So from Fajr to Dhuhr, you have a spot between those two salat. From Dhuhr to Asr, you have a spot between those two salat, and so forth. From Jummah, 1 week to the next, you have space between those 2 weeks. And for Ramadan, you have a space between that Ramadan to the next year. So the Shaykh said, so the salat wipes out what's between them when you avoid the major sin. He said, but the salat itself, it wipes away the major sin in that salat. And this hadith is one of them. They usually prove this because read this hadith again.
ما من امرئ تحضره صلاة مكتوبة فيحسن وضوءها وخشوعها وركوعها إلا كانت كفارة لما قبلها من الذنوب ما لم يؤتي كبيرة وذلك الظهر كله.
خير ما لم يأتي كبيرة. نعم. But there's a narration. This is ziyada. So as long as the person doesn't do the major sin. Now, and this one, the Shaykh mentioned, there's not a person that makes the 5 daily prayer, he perfects his wudu, meaning he doesn't leave any spots. He washed 3 times, some scholars says this is the meaning of perfecting wudu. And he have a khushu' we're talking about. He's not looking around, he's not looking up, he's not paying quick. His mind, body, his heart, his soul is in the salah. He make his ruku' properly, he's not going too fast, the sujood. Said except that salah will wipe away his sin, and then at the end there's a ziyada, because there's one that just stops there. This one, the Shaykh Ibrahim said, so as long as the person that does not come near the major sin. But there's another narration, don't say the major sin on the end, and just talk about the salat wiping away like you would wash if you had a stream or a river outside the door and you washed it 5 times a day. Prophet said, do you think it will have any danas? Danas is filth, sin. And they said, no. The Prophet said, this is the example of the 5 daily salah. So that narration doesn't say anything about, so as long as you leave off the major sin. Allah musta'an. Both them encouragement. The best way not to have sin is what? Leave it off. Hakada? No. But the strength of the salah is also from amongst the things that wipes away the major sin. Same thing about Ramadan. People try to put a condition. No, the Ramadan wipe away all your sin. But still, it's not a reason to play with the deen of Allah, and Allah knows that.
وكان لعائشة ثوب فيه تصاوير ممدودة إلى سهوة فكان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي إليه فقال أخريه عني فإنه لا تزال تصاوير تعرض لي في صلاتي وكان يقول لا صلاة بحضرة طعام ولا وهو يدافعه الأخبثان.
أيوة. إيش الوقت الآن؟
4:30.
The Maghrib is at about 5:25 to 6.
Have an hour, inshallah.
No. Huh?
Have an hour, inshallah.
Half hour? You said
1 hour. 1 hour.
Wait. So we'll take a break in about 10 minutes, pause, and then we'll come back. Okay, so here, the Shaykh is bringing the issue still of, believe it or not, concentration. Went from looking at the place of prostration, the issue of barakallahu fikum, making sure that you have a good wudu, you're concentrating, you're not just praying, you're not looking around. And now the issue of the salat wipes away, and the connection between praying and leaving off sin. One of the benefits here is that no one should be praying and just purposely sinning. And then if you're praying properly, it's going to decrease your sin. So the whole issue when you avoid the sin is showing you what should be the product of your salah. If you're praying and you're still doing major sins and you have nothing to change your character, or you're becoming worse than you were 5 years ago, that's a problem. That's a problem. Here now the Hadith Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha is talking about the issue of images. Huh? Hakada?
No, that's not right.
And the Prophet mentioning the issue where Aisha she had something hanging up, and the Aisha was trying to make some privacy, people passing by the window, passing by the door, like some type of keep the dust and the bugs out. But these have images, and the Prophet ﷺ, mentioning this as it relates to the images. Now, read this hadith again, Aisha, ماذا?
وكان لعائشة ثوب وكان لعائشة ثوب فيه تصاوير ممدودة إلى سهوة فكان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي إليه فقال أخريه عني فإنه لا تزال تصاويره تعرض لي في صلاتي.
Okay, so this is the other narration. The one I mentioned is out of place. It's talking about hanging something, but here Aisha had a garment. لها ثوبا فيها تصوير. And the Prophet was praying and he's looking. That garment was in the view of where he's praying is distracting him. So he told Aisha, move that garment, get it out of my sight because it's distracting me. So let's show you again the issue of distraction is real. And sometimes, in the masjid, the voices of the people, the phones ringing, let alone if you're praying, somebody's in front of you, he's got a whole big face on the back of his shirt. Maybe it's Bob Marley. Malcolm X with his finger like this. Allah I have some crazy Mickey Mouse on the back or something. You're going to be distracted. Sometimes noise. You pray in the house. Some people that have a musalla, designated place to pray. But even sometimes it can be a lot of noise. The TV, women making food, dishes, pans, pots, boom, boom, bop. Children yelling, screaming. So a person may be able to pray and tune all of that out. But then sometimes those things become a distraction. So the distraction of the ears, distraction of the eyes, distraction of the heart. Allahu musta'an. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned there's no salah at the time when the food is present, or a person has the whole akhbatan. Akhbat is from khabith, khubath. Akhbatan is two things that come out when you relieve yourself. That's the urine and the feces. So a person's praying. And the only time they say that you should pray and you'll have some food present, ready to eat, it's cooked, it's ready, or you got to use the bathroom, but it's not like you're going to be holding and trying to pray. You got to go to the bathroom 20%. You can still pray. You could feel in your bladder, I'm going to have to use the bathroom, but I don't have to use it, but I could tell or my stomach is, if I go to the bathroom now, I'm not going to pass bowels, but I could tell I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, my stomach hurts. So somebody have that, he can pray. Long as it doesn't distract him from the prayer. But the Prophet ﷺ is talking about you're holding it back, meaning you are holding your bladder. If you let your bladder go, you're going to urinate yourself. You're holding your colon in your stomach. If you loosen your muscles, khalas. You can't pray like that, I think. Your stomach hurts they want to go down there. Because you want to finish the salah. No, you can't pray like that because it's taken away from the whole chapter, which is called khushu'. Your mind is not there. Your heart is not there. Your mind is, I gotta use the bathroom. You gotta use the bathroom, use the bathroom. And the same thing, the food is ready. You're going to be thinking about the food, wallah, you have no salah. Then the only time you pray and the food is ready, except the salah is going out, then you pray. Of course, you want to recite something short, and then you can eat. Don't try to recite long story, this and that. But the food is ready, you have an hour left. Food is ready, salah doesn't go out for 45 minutes. The food is ready, salah doesn't go out for a half hour. You could eat 5-10 minutes, pray and then come back. Then, don't try to pray and the food is there. It's going to distract you. Also, some ulama, they mention some hadith when the man you have shahawat. Sometimes this happens. You wake up. Fajr didn't come in, but it's close. Or it just came in. Allah, if you have shahawat, have erection, you can't pray like that. Some of them say, hand your hajjah, make the ghusl, then pray. I can imagine you have that on your mind, you're trying to pray. It's no way. So the whole thing, your mind, your heart, your soul have to be in the salah. Any chance of distraction, you have to eliminate it while you're going to make that salah to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala.
أدعية الاستفتاح. It's another chapter.
ثم كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يستفتح القراءة بأدعية كثيرة متنوعة يحمد الله تعالى فيها ويمجده ويثني عليه وقد أمر بذلك المسيء صلاته فقال له لا تتم صلاة لأحد من الناس حتى يكبر ويحمد الله جل وعز ويثني عليه ويقرأ بما تيسر من القرآن.
طيب هنا في اختلاف بين العلماء. Scholars they have a big discussion and everyone does not agree based on this hadith the Shaikh mentioned that it means that you're going to have to make some type of praise of Allah, supplicate Him, make some praise of Allah, pardon me, or supplicate to Him and magnify His name before you start the salah. Here, the Shaikh quoted the narration that the Prophet ordered you to praise Allah, to magnify Him. And he said there's not a person that makes the takbir, Allahu Akbar, and then he praises Allah, he magnifies Him, and then he reads what's easy for him from the Quran. This, if you say Allahu Akbar, you say A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. That verse, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Abu Hurairah said that Allah told the Prophet, Hamdani Abdi, my servant is just praising me. So this is part of praising Allah wa ta'ala itself, making the takbir and reciting al-Fatiha. Think about the Salat al-Janaiz. You say Allahu Akbar, you go right into al-Fatiha. But you're praising Allah, you're magnifying Allah. But here the Shaykh understood this hadith al-Albani to mean to say something before you even get into the salah. To praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Wa tabaraka ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruka. Allahumma ba'at bayni wa bayni khatayaya kama ba'adta bayni al-mashriq wal-maghrib. Rabb Jibreel or Mikael or Israfil. All of this you're praising and magnifying Allah. That's before you would say, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. There's something called Dua Istiftah, meaning you open Salah by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This also from the etiquettes of Dua. You want something, you praise Allah, you mention His names and attributes, you mention Salat on the Prophet, then you ask Allah. But sometimes you don't have the context or the time. You just say, Allah maghfirli, Allah forgive me. Allah masaluka jannatul firdaus. So, this, some scholars said is recommended. Even though the Prophet said and used the language that could be translated, you have to. Some scholars said it's recommended. Why? Because the reality is once you say Allahu Akbar and you recite al-Fatiha, you're going to praise Allah, you're going to magnify Allah wa ta'ala, and ma tayassara min al-Quran. Some scholars said that means some portions of the Quran after al-Fatiha. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. While others said that means al-Fatiha ma tayassara min al-Quran, as who al-Fatiha may be difficult for. Most people is easy for, and Allah knows best.
وكان يقرأ تارة بهذا وتارة بهذا فكان يقول اللهم باعد بيني وبين خطاياي كما باعدت بين المشرق والمغرب اللهم نقني من خطاياي كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس اللهم اغسلني من خطاياي بالماء والثلج والبرد.
هذا الدعاء استفتاح. What you just heard, sometimes the Prophet ﷺ would say Allahu Akbar, and then he will open with this word Allahumma باعت بيني وبين خطاياي. Sometimes خطاياي, different narration. They all mean my shortcomings. Make between me and my shortcomings the distance, meaning keep me away from them. كما بعدت بين المشرق ماذا والمغرب. Just as you keep the east far away from the west, keep me away from my shortcomings and my shortcomings away from me. In that manner. And then Salam said, Allahumma naqini min al-khutayaya, wash me or purify me, sanctify me from my mistakes. Kama yunaqqa ath-thawb abyad min ad-danas. Just as the white, pure white coal is clean from dirt, has no smudges. Just clean me like this. And then the Prophet said, Allahumma aqsilni min al-khatayaya bil-ma'i wal-thalji wal-barad. And oh Allah, wash me from my sins, yani bil-ma', water, wal-thalj, yani and sometimes they said thalj is yani snow, wal-barad yani is ice. And then they have yani other words, Allahumma tatahhirni, yani purify me min al-khatayaya bil-ma'i wal-thalji wal-barad, or bil-thalj wal-ma' wal-barad. They switch it up. This is the same meaning. And Shaykh al-Bani, other scholars said this part, the last part about washing a person clean from their sins with water, ice, and snow, this mean on the day of judgment. Wallahu musta'an, wallahu a'lam.
وكان يقوله في الفرض.
This dua.
And this one, Shaykh al-Bani said, you should say this in the fard. But you have something that you say in the fard, then what would make you cannot say it in the nafil? Or you say something the night prayer, you can't use it in Fajr, but the Shaykh will say this, but many scholars they disagree because a dua. لا يقيده مقيدا إلا في بعض الأماكن such as in ruku'ah shouldn't make a dua from the Quran. But if the dua from the Quran, no, astaghfirullah, you shouldn't you recite the Quran. And this is the Shaykh is going to come with this issue. But here it's talking about you go into ruku', you say Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. You can't say that in ruku'. But you could say رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ سُبْحَانَ رَبِّ الْعَظِيمِ. This is from the Quran. That statement from the Quran. So the Waqi'ah and other surahs, same thing in sujood, mention dua, but it's from the Quran. So here when Shaykh is talking about these different issues, he's going to say that this is only in the Fard. But Allah musta'an. You mentioned Al-Fatiha in the Fard. But when you pray Nafil, you're not going to mention Al-Fatiha. And your dua, shouldn't be restricted, and this was most of the ulama say about this. If you could say it in the 5 daily prayer, you could say it in the nafil, you could say it in the sunnahs, you could say it in the night prayer, you could say it away like this.
The rest of the chapter is all ad'iyah. You want me to just read it? Or?
Aywa.
Okay.
Juziyan. Just sum up. Juziyan.
جزئية.
وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض حنيفا وما أنا من المشركين.
ماذا قال في النفل أو في الفرض؟
في الفرض.
في الفرض. He said this is also in the fard. وجهت وجهي الذي فطر السماوات والأرض. I turned my face to the one who has fashioned the heavens and the earth. To about تبارك وتعالى.
إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له.
That also from the Quran, but this dua, قل إن صلاتي ونسكي. This is a mistake. Here they translate ونسكي as my sacrifice. So the brother sometimes almost, and I heard the brother Hadda Allah Yana. نسأل الله يزدنا علم وخشية والإخلاص والصدق. Truthfulness. But sometimes people know they don't know, but they want to look good. He's quoting this ayat Eid. Allah musta'an. He said, قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له. Nusuki here they translate sacrifice. So like you say, I think you gotta make a sacrifice. Because you're never gonna get anywhere. You gotta save some money, or I think sometimes you just gotta sacrifice. You gotta if you really want something, you gotta go after it. This type of sacrifice is to strive, to struggle, to make something happen that is important, But the other sacrifice is called dibh, where you take an animal and you say Bismillah. So in this ayat is talking about nusuki, it's just what it says in Arabic, nusuk. To slaughter. Nusuk. Nusuk is not to save some money or move from a bigger house to a smaller house. That sacrifice is not the meaning here, but a lot of brothers use this all the time. They don't know the Arabic language. They look at the English, say, my prayer, my living, my sacrifice. So we have to sacrifice. And Allah, He said in this Quran that, my prayer and my sacrifice. Who's going to give their money for the sake of Akhi? That's khata jiddan. That's a big mistake, Akhi. Allah Mustafa.
اللهم أنت الملك لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك أنت ربي وأنا عبدك.
Allah. So this, is an example. We want to take every single thing for the time, but you see what the Shaykh is mentioning. Before you even start the recitation after Allahu Akbar, you're going to start making some of these dhikr, some of this dua. And this is one of the ways the Prophet mentioned that you really get your dua accepted. So imagine you want your salat accepted. Imagine salat, you say, Allah Akbar, Alhamdulillah, Alameen, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawm Al-Din, you flying down the highway. Imagine you spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, you just praise Allah before you even get into the Fatiha. Imagine the type of concentration. Imagine the type of pleasure Allah has with you. Imagine how Allah is going to accept or make that salah different from someone who doesn't praise and magnify Him before they even read the greatest portion of the Quran, that which Allah called the most 7 repeated Sabah Mathani, and then He called it Quran al-Azim, Quran al-Azim, the magnificent part of the Quran. Allah.
Next chapter, sir.
القراءة. ثم كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يستعيذ بالله تعالى فيقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه وكان أحيانا يزيد فيه فيقول أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان ثم يقرأ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا يجهر بها.
This very controversial. We're not going to spend much time on it, but some of the brothers, wallahi, they even tried to argue this. And they use what the Shaykh is saying. Wallahi, the Shaykh, again, he used to teach the salah to many of the brothers in Syria and Jordan. Many of the Tulab al-Ilm, many of the Ikhwa Afadil, blessed noble brothers, inshallah. But he was teaching from sources that had Da'if, Hadith, Mawdu'a, this, that, people of the past. So the Shaykh decided to do khitmah, do a service to the deen, and gather and put in one place those things that are most authentic. Some, the Shaykh made a estimation, something this week. If he thought he can gather chains and make it sahih, he did that. If something was said to be sahih, the Shaykh went and checked and seen the origin of the hadith is not sahih, it's da'if, and he said it's da'if. And then if something was clearly sahih, before other scholars said it's sahih and it's no judgment, then the Shaykh did that. But here you see the Shaykh is, Wallah Musta'an, he is really trying to bring a benefit to the people as it relates to the salah. And you see, when we talk about this issue, here the Shaykh is mentioning the qira'ah of the Fatiha, how to read the Fatiha, what to say before. But the Shaykh can't say that if Allah said, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. That's not the best way. Allah just said, فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مَاذَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. But Allah also mentioned, أَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ حَمَزَاتِ الشَّيَاطِينِ. He mentioned different ways to seek refuge against the shaitan. But Allah did say, أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. In ma'na and wording. But the Shaykh, he came and said, the way you should say it, the way the Prophet should say, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم, وبوجه الكريم بسلطان قديم من الشيطان الرجيم, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان. But these are ways the Prophet used to do it. But does that mean now if I say, I'm just going to say, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, this is wrong, I'm not following the Sunnah, this is from the Quran. But the Shaykh, he made that judgment. And some brothers, they will argue and say, no, I think the best way to say it is to say, أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. Akhi, Allah Musta'an. Yes, the best guidance is the guidance of the Prophet. But also, that guidance of the Prophet is the Quran. And Allah said, وَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ مَاذَا فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. It just said مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. It said مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ, يعني الرجيم الظالم this and that. No. So sometimes the brothers they have to understand everybody's statement could be accepted or rejected except the Prophet. This Shaykh al-Albani's view, because he's trying to revive the Sunnah that died. But does that mean he's going to be right? Like in this case, if I say that I'm wrong, I have to say no. And Shaykh Umar Basmoud, he did that explanation of Sifat Salat al-Nabi. He mentioned this. He said the first way to say Yani ta'awud, Yani min ash-shaytan al-rajim is the way Allah said in the Quran. That's it. Okay, if you want to add بوجه الكريم وبسلطان القدير من الشيطان الرجيم, that's fine. You want to say أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم, or you want to say من نفثه ونفخه, okay, طيب. This is extra, this is added, but for someone to say أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, this is wrong, it's not part of the Sunnah, actually it's not the best way. Allah knows.
القراءة آية بآية آية ثم يقرأ الفاتحة ويقطعها آية.
Prophet ﷺ would then, after seeking refuge in Allah Ta'ala from the shaitan, then he would open with a fatiha. And this, I'm going to add, the Shaykh he did mention that this Ista'adha Billahi should be an audible. I remember back in the 90s, when I first became Muslim in 89, 90, I had this tape. Man, I played this thing to the... I don't know if brothers remember cassette tape.
Yes.
Those might be too young here.
No, I got it.
You remember cassette tape?
Yes. Flip it around. Like
Yeah. One brother, he gave me this tape. It was from Morocco. And he laughed because you know what I'm really saying. And it was the tall way. And you're talking about a new Muslim who had a love for Quran. That was me. Man, and back then I didn't know anything about Husri and Minshawi and all of this. I learned that a few years later, but my first introduction was this tape. And it was the Imam Mustafa from Morocco. Put the tape in, and he was the first one I heard he would make it out loud. He said, A'udhu billahi sam'ani min ash-shaytan ar-rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, ar-rahmanir rahim, maliki yawm ad-din, iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. He rocked that thing, and then when he finished, everybody said, Ameen, and he was blowing. But he was the first one to hear, he mentioned the ta'awud. Then later on, as I started to learn, I learned that you shouldn't say it out loud. So some people, they do it out loud. That's why the Shaykh said it shouldn't be done out loud. Why? Because some people, they do it out loud. Now, as for the Quran, the Fatiha, ayah, then this is the way the Prophet, he would read it. And all of the hadith that you find, say, can yani muddu Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. And Anas, he mentioned this, Hadith in Bukhari. You have a lot of those Hadith in Mustadrak of Imam Hakim. Imam Muqbil, he did the Ta'liq commentary on this Imam Hakim, this Mustadrak. And this is one of the great books of a great scholar, but like, I don't know. It said the Shaykh, he died, you get a chance to fix it and review it. Have a lot of hadiths died. Most people, they take those hadith like this, the Prophet would elongate. Of course, if he's showing you on the member how to pray the salat, remember, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni nusalli, he's reciting out loud. So that's how they know. He would say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Alameen. He is elongated. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. That's how they knew. But those hadith are not approved that you say the Al-Fatiha out loud. And that's the discrepancy. People take those hadith that say it should be read out loud. All of the hadith that said the Prophet can't jahr bi Fatiha or jahr bi Basmala, most of them da'if jiddan. Even the introduction of the Tafsir bin Kathir, A lot of them, Abu Huraira, Yani, Jabir bin Abdullah, they're da'if jiddan. So you'll find some imams, they're going to say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And really the Prophet did not make the Al-Fatiha out loud.
Even Bismillah, Shaykh.
Even the Bismillah, well, this is the point I'm making. I meant to say Bismillah, Zakumullah Khair. Not the Fatiha, the Bismillah. That was a slip of the tongue. The Bismillah, Zakumullah Khair. Because, even in some books they say, you do either or Sunnah.
No.
One brother asked me this, he said, in this book, he brought me the book, to open it, look. So right here to do it is Sunnah, to do it, make the Bismillah out loud, and to not make it both of them Sunnah. I said, I think that's a Then I explained to him, then I went about the hadith and what the ulama said. He said, somebody just put that, because that's what they understood in the book, but you can't take that. You gotta go back to the issue at hand. So to say that the ta'awud min the shaitan out loud is not right, and to say the Bismillah out loud is not right. Although some ulama from the imams of the Qira, the imams of the Kathir, the Mekki, was from the ulama of the Quran, not Ibn Kathir who came later, the Mufassir of Tafsir and Hadith, Ibn Kathir al-Mekki, from the ulama of the Ittiba' Tabi'in, the generation, the Hamza and Hafs and Asim, all of these imams of the Shu'ba, all of these different imams of the Quran, they have their schools of thoughts and their schools and difference of opinion. So you'll find some of them saying that. But as for narration from hadith, we don't have any hadith that is authentic saying that the Prophet ﷺ used to make the Bismillah out loud. Even Abu Huraira, his was the most sought video to prove that. And even Shaykh Ukkasha, who used to say that hadith is authentic, where Abu Huraira, when he once led the Salat, Jahra Bismillah, so Bismillah ar-Rahim, to the end of the Fatiha, he said, Inni lashbahtum bi salat Rasulullah. So I just showed you, I just copied, I just exemplified to you how the Prophet prayed. Shaykh al-Albani, the same thing in his explanation of Fiqh Sunnah. It's called Tamam al-Minna Ta'liq ala Fiqh Sunnah. He said that the fact that the ulama said hada asah hadith fi hada bab, here's that term again, this is the most authentic hadith in this subject matter, doesn't mean that the hadith itself is authentic. And it's not. Because this Abu Huraira mentioning something, he's not saying the Prophet ﷺ did it, he's saying, I showed you. And most of the time they say this is sunnah, or this is, what in the Prophet's time, it's okay, this is sunnah. But in that chain is somebody that disqualifies the narration, and even Sheikh Mukbil, he went and changed before he died, he said they don't see that hadith to be authentic, the hadith is da'if hadith of Abu Hurairah. Other than that, you have Anas saying the Prophet ﷺ used to start his recitation with Alhamd, which is a Sahih Muslim, meaning he will say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen out loud. But he will say the Bismillah, but you wouldn't hear it. What you will hear is Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, like in the hadith of Aisha, she mentioned this as well, radiyallahu ta'ala anha.
وكان تارة يقرأها مالك يوم الدين.
Malik Yawm al-Din, Malik Yawm al-Din. This different, qira'ah, or acceptable, or authentic. Some people think you're making a mistake. You said Malik Yawm al-Din. No, it's Malik and Malik. Both of them sahih.
The next chapter is ركنية الفاتحة وفضائلها.
Rukni al-Fatiha wa Fadail. Okay, we'll take that 10-minute break and we'll come back. So, some better than